What is up, my friend? Welcome to episode number 140 of the Anthony John Hemmings podcast. And today I'm bringing on a guest to talk about her own personal experience with ayahuasca and how it has realistically impacted her daily life, her business, everything. So if you've ever been curious about this plant medicine or psychedelics and the impact that it can play into your healing journey, your life, your business, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Anthony John Hemmings podcast, the one and only podcast designed to help you become unstoppable in life and business. My name is Anthony John Hemmings. My friends call me AJ, and my goal with this podcast is to help you remember who you truly are so you can maintain your center in the chaos, embody your potential, and unlock freedom in your life and business. That being said, let's get into today's show.
All right, welcome back. Now, today's guest is Amy Grace. She's a teacher, a holistic psychotherapist, master trainer. She has over 15 years of clinical experience and training in hypnotherapy and energy psychology, meridian tapping, neuronutrient therapy, guided meditation, yoga therapy, and holistic health. Her passion for holistic healing, it began when she was in this healing crisis 15 years ago, and she was prescribed some medication. Now, she had a deep desire to find natural alternatives to medication to heal her brain and her body pain. And despite what conventional medicine practitioners were telling her in her traditional education, she was like, man, I got to figure out this natural path. So after many years of specialized training in how neuronutrients promote positive mental health, she's developed and taught her own holistic psychotherapy training course to over 500 students nationwide. And she has this passion to really share this specialized knowledge to help practitioners reach more people and really help them break through stubborn mental health issues with holistic techniques and tools. Now, before I bring her onto the show, if you want to generate more revenue while working less, living out your big vision, having fun, and doing more of what you love, I have a little something for you. Every single week, I set aside a few hours to talk with online entrepreneurs about what's working, what's not working, and really help them create a plan to create their visions faster. So if you want one of those times to talk with me directly, just go to talkwithaj.com. It's 100% free. Normally I charge $1,000 for a strategy session, but since you're listening to this podcast, I'll hook you up with an opportunity to talk with me. Now I'm going to warn you, don't book the call if you're not serious about creating results, because we're going to dive deep and together we're going to find the root that's really preventing you from having the results that you want in your life right now. So if you're an online entrepreneur and you're driven and you're hungry and you're ready to kind of create your next level results, head on over to talkwithaj.com, grab a time to talk with me. So with that being said, let's bring on today's guest. Amy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I was creeping on you on your Facebook page or your profile. Yeah. And I saw you posted this thing about ascension. Now this was interesting, right? This was interesting. Because there's all these symptoms. I have some of them pulled up. They had some of these pulled up. You just know or sense that something's happening or changing. You feel different for reasons. This was one interesting. Stomach and digestive issues, cold or flu-like symptoms. So I'm just curious your thoughts, and we'll get into plant medicine here in a second. I'm just curious, do you think a lot of times people mistake their diseases or their illnesses for being sick or whatever, when rather it's just their body upgrading to a new vibration? Just curious your thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Well, I think with everything that's going on lately, we are having an ascension. And I do think that, a lot more people are becoming more awakened spiritually, and they're feeling it in their bodies and their vibrations. So those of us, I think, that are a little bit more sensitive, we're wired in a sensitive way. I consider myself an HSP, highly sensitive person. I'm really feeling it. And I think I posted that right after I did had a plant medicine journey myself. So I think, nice. Just feeling absolutely wide open, and that pineal gland, that third eye, just wide open, really feeling some of those symptoms myself. So I'm sure other people are feeling it too.
Yeah. What was your last journey?
My last journey was about a month ago, and I did ayahuasca and started off with combo. And combo's the frog medicine. Have you done that?
I haven't. I've had a friend of mine do combo. I have not chosen to go down that path yet. I haven't been led down that path.
Yeah. It's pretty intense, but really great as far as clearing you out before you're going to do a big plant medicine journey. So I hadn't done that before with my first few ayahuasca journeys, and this time I decided to do it. And boy, it burned like fire, but it was absolutely amazing as far as kind of like cleaning you out and grounding you.
Mm.
So definitely, sorry, my kitties. Go on, Bella. Um, it definitely kind of is like a pre-purge, so that if you're going to be purging any kind of darker negative energies or emotions, it's kind of just going to bring all of that up into your lymph system, and then it comes out. So it is very intense. I'm not going to lie, but it's good. It's a good intense. It's a good intense. And then I went into the ayahuasca journey, and then let's see, the next day I did peyote. So it was a lot in a weekend. I did peyote, and then something called yopo.
Okay. What is that one?
Well, yopo is something, it's another plant medicine from the Amazon that sometimes when you're in ayahuasca, it can help you go deeper.
Nice.
So it's a form of DMT, actually.
Okay.
And it's snuffed through the nose by the shaman or practitioner.
Nice,
So
nice.
that's
That's that little V-shaped pipe thing that has the ash, and I've done that one before.
Yes, exactly.
But there's different blends that have different unlockings, I guess you could say.
Exactly. And this one was designed to help you go deeper, and that's exactly what it did for me. And so I was definitely the purger of the group. It was like every single plant medicine, there was a lot of purging that I was experiencing, but in a good way. Yeah.
So what led you to ayahuasca in the first place?
I was going through a relationship transition, and basically wanted to get some answers and wanted to heal some deeper traumas that I have been struggling with for quite a while. Had some PTSD that just wasn't going away, difficulty sleeping, hypervigilance, that kind of thing. And so I was led to do it. I did do it in the US. I didn't go down to South America by myself. But I was really called. Once I heard the calling, it started to show up in media and TV shows, and people were talking about it. And I'm like, wow, I hadn't even heard about this. What is this medicine? So I was so intrigued that then I just started to go to entheomedicine, seminars and read everything I could. And then I was on it. Then I'm like, oh, wow, this medicine is for me. And so, the first few times I did it was in the same kind of setting. It was like a retreat. So I did it 3 times.
And it was stateside?
It was where?
Stateside in America?
Oh, yes. It was in Florida.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. And it was absolutely incredible. It was really life-changing for me.
How was it life-changing for you?
It was life-changing in that, oh gosh, in so many ways. Basically, I was able to see my own light. I was able to see what is at the core of me and everybody else, which is light and love and spirit. And that's where we come from, and that's who we are. And I think that all of my, the depression, the PTSD, it was just kind of like scar tissue. I couldn't see it anymore. And, I'm a helper and a healer, and I can help other people see that light. But I was having trouble seeing it for myself. And ayahuasca was the one medicine, after years of doing my own therapy and everything, it was the one thing that just pierced through all those layers. I mean, it just penetrated. And I was like, wow, okay, it's not so bad. I can get through this, and I am the light. And I can look at my traumas now and really look at them almost like an outside observer. And I really started to have an empathy for the perpetrators in my life and the people that had hurt me. Almost like empathy and compassion for where they were coming from when they did what they did. And I just don't think that anything else can help us do that in that way, Yeah.
What has been some like the practical application that you've experienced on the other side of the journeys? Like when it comes more into like integration and how it's impacting your everyday life as far as being able to create results or being able to relate with other people? Like what's the practical application you've experienced?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, like they say, 2% is on the mat with the medicine, and the other 98 is how we implement that in our lives, right? And that's how it plays out. And it's just kind of changed me as a person fundamentally, in my help with others, mostly, in patience, Love. I have a daughter, a beautiful teen daughter, and it's just, I don't know. I just like it helped me feel just getting in touch with how lucky I am to have this beautiful child. Kind of just helped me see everything more in a positive light, honestly. But it really helped me in my practice and in helping other people and women specifically, and helping them find their light and their truth and their empowerment, really. So it's sparked a whole passion and calling for me to help other people with plant medicine, actually, as a therapist, and to be able to be in that space with them.
Now, do you find that impacts your ability as a coach just because you can hold more space for somebody? And I don't know how to put this. Other really good coaches will get this, but people who aren't coaching don't have this experience. It may go over their head. But you kind of can be this mirror, this very objective mirror where you really can guide them quicker and faster and deeper to remembering who they are,
Yes.
but like now, rather than you could prior to some of your journeys. Do you experience that?
Exactly. Yeah. It's helping them go deeper, farther, and holding space for them in such a beautiful way. Like just reflecting back their light and just holding that and containing it. And, if trauma does come up, it's being able to handle that so gracefully and just like, okay, this is all just information. This is something that now your subconscious is ready to look at. And let's look at that together, and I'll hold your hand while we look at that. Because you will come through that. You will come through on the other side. It's not so scary anymore. It's not so big and scary. So now that I've done that, I can like help people understand that their traumas aren't so big and scary that they can't, look at it.
Do you find that it's usually just our stories and meanings around the trauma that is causing the suffering or the pain or darkening who we think we are or whatever, is just the stories and meanings? And the plant medicine is helping us not just cognitively, but experientially being able to like transcend the stories and meanings?
Yes, absolutely. The stories and meanings, right? The narrative, the stories that we tell ourselves for all those years. That phrase, we're only as sick as our secrets. So when the secret comes out and we shed light on that, we shine a light on that, it's like it's not so sick anymore. We can integrate that into ourselves. It's a part of us now. It doesn't have to be a separate story. It's like, oh yeah, that happened to me, but it doesn't define me.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me stronger, but it's not like this sick secret anymore. So yeah, it totally changes that.
What has been like probably one of your biggest breakthroughs that you've experienced with plant medicine?
Oh goodness. I think, like I said, just hearing the message that I need to have more self-love, and hearing that over and over again consistently across journeys. um, it's like I need to have more self-love. The love that I pour onto other people is, don't forget about yourself. Don't forget about yourself. So it's a nice message for me, just to keep taking care of myself in the way I should be. But being a giver and being slightly codependent, being a healer, I could get a little bit more, into that giving role. And the medicine always reminds me, come back to the self, take care of yourself, love yourself first. Really put yourself first, because you are of so much value.
What does that mean to you? Like, love yourself first?
It means that I can't fully love other people and give without loving myself first, without taking time to care for myself and love myself, and, in all the ways that looks.
Now, does that mean like yoga or whatever it is, or is
So
it a
self-care.
lot more simpler where it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
really learning to honor your desires? Is it really that simple? It's just more about having an awareness of like, what are my desires, knowing I'm worthy of those desires, and then having the courage and the willingness to then go after those desires. Now, let me preface this a little bit, make this sense. So for some, like for me, for instance, right now, there's a desire within me to go do jujitsu and roll, 2 or 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
So part of self-care wouldn't just be like, oh, well, I'm doing it because I care about myself, because you do it for weight. Like I could create all these stories and meanings
Mm-hmm.
when it's way more simple. Self-love would be like, I'm aware I have a desire. I'm going to trust and respect myself enough to go create that desire. End of story. Like, it's not even about weight loss. It's not about staying in shape or learning martial art. It's literally just honoring our desire. So I'm just kind of curious, is like genuine self-love really just learning to trust our desires?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Definitely. It's trusting our desires, listening to the voice
Yes.
inside, that
Yes.
whisper,
Yes.
that intuitive little whisper that we can ignore, we can listen to. And we have to tune in and listen. And so for me, that is self-love is, oh, I'm not going to ignore that anymore. I'm going
Awesome.
to listen to that. And however that manifests and moving my body or eating more nutritious food, whichever way that is, it
Sure,
is
sure.
just like I matter and I'm worth it. Worth keeps popping up for me. Um, I talk a lot about worth with my female clients. And something that I think a lot of us struggle with is just feeling worthy. And so the medicine was always just like, you are worthy. You don't have to prove anything.
Yeah.
Like you are that.
Do you think on the other side of that, when people come home to like, I'm worthy of desires, that's like step one. But then where the rubber meets the road and people probably meet a lot of resistance, it's been my experience, is then they're in a relationship and they're like, I have this desire. And if I go chasing this desire, if I go down creating this desire, not out of a need to prove or defend, but it's just like, I want to do this, then this other partner in the relationship may not approve it. And then so now we have this whole other layer of stories and meanings that we get to lean into and conquer because there is codependency. And I think in all relationships, there's fragments and fractals of this. And part of it is both people coming home. But usually it's one person who's willing to lead towards their desires at all costs. And when
Mm-hmm.
they do that, it is like the ultimate version and demonstration of self-love. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And I guess it's something that you have to look at in each individual relationship just to see if you can balance that out and be like, okay, am I bailing on it? It just depends what that looks like. But I do think, in a healthy relationship, you want to encourage your partner to go for their desires, like to
Of
the ultimate
course.
and
Of
to,
course.
reach that highest potential. I really do feel that way.
Awesome. What do you think
Yeah.
that would look like for most people in committed relationships?
Gosh, freedom. No. Um, no, I mean, just that, I mean, I think that is love, really. That is love.
Do you think it comes down to just both parties being willing to take radical responsibility, both parties willing to own and voice their desires, and then number three, willing to create agreements? And again, agreements aren't these things of like you and I create an agreement and it's like this is the agreement till the end of
Right.
time. It
Right.
just means this is an agreement. We're going to walk this out. And the moment I have an awareness that this agreement is not serving me anymore, then I have the courage to come to you and say, hey, remember that agreement we had? Yeah, that
Yeah.
one's really not feeling expansive for me right now. So
Yeah.
here's a potential solution. And then you could counter or you could agree and we could create a new agreement. And so
Right.
I think with these kind of three kind of fate or three legs of the stool,
Hmm.
that's when like epic co-creation inside a committed relationship actually starts taking place. And again, easier said
Yeah.
than done,
Easier
right?
said than done. And, and we all have, I like to say boundaries, right? Like,
Yep.
if that person is reaching their desires and it crosses a boundary for me personally, then that's something that we need to look at because that
Yep.
might not feel good. So that's
Yep.
something just to kind of examine along the way. But, each case is so different, really.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, have you done psilocybin or any other journeys or mostly just ayahuasca, combo, things of that nature?
Peyote.
Peyote, that's right.
Psilocybin is my favorite. Psilocybin is my favorite. Um, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm actually guiding journeys for women now
Awesome.
and I've had incredible results. It's almost just like, wow, this is my passion. This is my calling to sit with that. That medicine is powerful too. I mean, just like ayahuasca, but in a different way.
Yeah.
So I'm loving it. I'm loving psilocybin.
What do you like about psilocybin?
Oh goodness. I like that it's soft and sweet, but it's also assertive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I know people
Yeah.
who, very few people, I've only actually know one person who did not have a nice journey on psilocybin. He ended up
Yeah.
throwing like black, like he
Oh,
purged blackness
yeah. He was
out of
actually
him.
purging.
Yeah,
Purging.
he totally
Oh,
threw up just black. just like,
That's great. That's
whack.
great. That's awesome. If he was my client, he did that, I'd be like, good job. Yes, let's get that out. Let's get that
Yeah, so
out.
it served him. My experience has been completely different. My personal experience is like I was enveloped in like love and like
Yeah,
connected with everything, and
yeah,
yeah, totally different. So it's interesting. But for him specifically, it was just because he wouldn't surrender. And so
yeah.
in your experience is the people who have a little tougher with psilocybin, they're mentally just not willing to just like surrender to the process.
Exactly. That's the very first step that we go into when we do a journey. We're talking a hero's journey, right? We're talking 5 grams,
Hmm.
a macro dose. So when someone's entering into that space, anxiety is the first stage that comes up, and fear. So it's really natural. So when you have a guide, like someone like me, I am there to process that with you, because it is scary. You're entering in, and if I notice through body language, facial expression, anything that's coming up verbally that that person is in fear, it's like, okay, let's address that. Let me hold your hand. Let me be right here for you, because that's so natural. And so when you have somebody to kind of help you get through that fear to the other side, it's beautiful. But I totally get that fear. And when people are resistant, there's a reason why.
Of
They're
course.
too afraid. They're maybe afraid of the ego. And what am I going to see? What am I going to learn? Maybe I won't like it. Maybe it's going to be really scary over there, because it is scary. And what I say, the best word or mantra is, I'm going to surrender. Just surrender. Just lay
Yeah.
back and surrender and see what comes up for you. I promise you, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You're not going to die.
Yeah. I remember on my very first psilocybin journey of 5 grams. That's what I was led to take in my journal. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually did it solo by myself, actually.
Ooh,
And
cool.
so in that, once it started kicking in, there was probably within 45 minutes,
Yeah.
this little voice came up and it was like, do you want to die? And so
Ooh.
I was like, sure. Deep breath in, deep breath
Oh
out. Up and
my.
up and up I went. So it's just
Wow.
interesting how different people they're faced with that decision. And
Yes.
some people are like, oh, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And then other people can just like breathe into it and just let it take them where it's going to take them.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I just did a journey with somebody last week, and she started to have that fear. She started getting really antsy in her body, and I was like, "It's okay. Let's move through this. This is totally normal, totally natural. You're okay. You're okay. Do you need a blanket? What do you need? You want to hold a crystal? What will ground you? Just like, remember, you're here. You're in charge. And then she was able to move through that and enter into that space that she wanted to go to find out some answers. But it's so normal to feel that way, though, because you don't know. You feel like you're overtaken.
Sure. Sure.
But for me, it's so exciting. It's like, woohoo, I'm going on a spiritual Disneyland. I can't
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah. What advice would you have for somebody who maybe hasn't participated in psychedelic plant medicine? Like, what advice would you give them if they were being pulled to go down that path? Or what advice would you give them to make sure they have like a good healing integrative experience? That it's just not like this,
Yeah,
fun thing. It's something that's practical, applicable.
exactly. That's a good question. Kind of depends on which plant medicine they're called to do. But if it's like ayahuasca, getting super clear with your intentions. Intentions are everything, and psilocybin too. I mean, I have people develop really clear intentions, and to be ready in your life to do it. If you're so busy that you're just 9 to 5 every day, just grind, 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 you have no time to integrate after, then don't do it. You need to respect the medicine going in and respect it going out. And so we're not respecting it if we're just busy, busy, busy. So that's number one. Eating cleanly, being clean in your body is really important. Preparing your body for the medicine to enter is also respect for the medicine. Um, so the before, the after, the preparation, and then giving it time after. That's what I would say would be my advice. And also, if it's psilocybin, why not try a little microdose before? Why not try microdosing? Introduce the medicine to your body to see how your body responds, and like, okay, this isn't so scary, and I kind of like this. Um, so those are some ideas I
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. And when you say
Yeah.
respect the medicine, what do you mean by that?
Respect the power of this medicine. It's been around for thousands of years, and I know it's become more modern, and there's a psychedelic renaissance going on right now, and it can almost be more mainstream or trendy, but we have to remember where it comes from. and that it is respected, in other cultures. And I feel like, we lose some of that. We lose the ceremony and the ritual. So that's why I like to bring in ceremony and ritual when I do guided journeys, because I feel like that's so important. And the saging and the cleansing and that's respecting the medicine. It's not like, here you go. Like it has come back. Like we see psilocybins being used in research, right? You can be trained as a therapist to do it that way. That doesn't appeal to me because you're sitting in an office. The client has a blindfold. You've got a male and a female on either side. I mean, like, how forced and contrived can you get?
Yeah.
I don't know if I could relax into a journey like that. And then you're getting studied and researched. So it's just like, there's no ceremony, no ritual. So respecting it is, I think, bringing in those things that have been around for thousands of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
That work.
Have you found like doing journeys outside in nature? I don't know. It seems like it unlocks things that being in a building just doesn't.
Absolutely. It's all about the set and setting, right? Mindset is your set. The setting is the nature and what's around you. And if you were to open your eyes, what do you see? Do you see four walls, or do you see beautiful candlelight? Do you see trees? What is it that you're seeing? I think it's everything. I think it just kind of feeds the magical part of the medicine. I do. But even though when you're going into a deeper journey, your eyes are shut. And I
Totally.
recommend the eyes are shut.
Sure.
But it's so nice that if you're in a transition, if you want to move from one space to another, what is it that you see? I like to have beautiful, candlelight and low lighting and maybe some psychedelic, tapestry, so that, wow, okay, now I'm looking at shapes and colors in a whole different way. I'm not just in this clinical office. Who wants that?
Yeah, I don't know. I've done one in the house at the
Yeah.
end of my first journey, and I for me it seems like when I'm outside, the earth,
Oh yeah.
earth like speaks to me, and so
Yeah.
I always my theory is like if we can find a good setting where we're safe and we're secure and all of that stuff outside, there's something about the connection between plant medicine and earth that just adds this whole other dimension of healing
Yeah.
and guidance that maybe potentially a building doesn't. And that, I'm not discounting those that have done it inside. I mean,
Yeah.
clinical
Yeah.
studies show that they're very successful
Yeah. Yeah.
inside their buildings, right?
Yes. I agree though. I agree. I've done it outside. I did one of my journeys, outside in the day in a forest. So, eyes were closed, but then they were open and up. And it was like, seeing the lizards and the trees. I mean, just right there, just soaking in every single drop of Mother Nature and Mother Earth. It was incredible. Very different than, eyes closed in a darker building. Very different.
Yeah, my last psilocybin journey, I was actually in Oklahoma. I felt like I needed to go be with the natives. And so I found like this Indian reservation and went to the Osage Nation and went to the state park and found this place. And I took a friend of mine to kind of just to be with me. And I remember I don't remember, maybe hour two or hour, 1 hour, hour and a half in, I was laying in this little canyon thing that we had set up. It's where we were led to. And I would, eyes closed. I was in a totally different dimension, just kind of stuck in this loop where I was like trying to figure out what it is I was going to choose to create, because I was one with everything and I could be anything at all times. And it was just like wrestling with like, I could do this, 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 I could do this. Anyway, I'd like come back and I'd see these ants, and they're actually really big ants. And I was like, fuck, these are big ants, but I got to go here. So I'd come back and I was stuck in the loop, and I'd come back and I'm like, fuck, these are ants. Are they going to bite me? No, I think they're friendly. And I kept coming back. And eventually I like looked over at my buddy and I was like, can you watch over my earthly body? Cause I really got to go here. And I'm kind of torn between caring for the body but my soul's wanting to go. He's like, I got you. I was like, okay. So that was just kind of my whole part of that journey. Was a long journey with lots of stories and stuff that we could unpack today. It was just interesting how I was stuck in this dichotomy between spirit world and then being responsible for physical world out in nature, and then having to ask for help to make sure both were taken care of.
That's incredible. Yeah, you can actually feel yourself leaving and going into spirit world. Yeah,
Totally.
that's incredible. That's the beauty of the medicine.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. So in ayahuasca, totally different than psilocybin. When do you use what recommendations do you have if somebody's like, I really don't know which one I'm called to? what recommendations would you have for them to like tap in and figure out which direction they're called to?
Gosh, that's such a good question. I mean, they work, I mean, they're very similar, but different in some ways. I mean, I do think, ayahuasca, I guess, is a little bit, can be longer. I don't want to say deeper, but we do have that potential to be in touch with deceased loved ones. So if that's something that you're wanting to do, that's what happened to me my very first journey.
On
Which
ayahuasca?
Yes, which was incredible. My mom had passed 5 years prior, and she came to me, I mean, right away, within like 15 minutes of me taking it. I was just like, whoa, she must have been waiting at the gate, at that portal. Like, and she had some things she wanted to say to me, and we had a healing, and it was beautiful. I mean, I just can't describe it any other way that, she was holding me and she was talking to me. And I try to describe this to other people, but it doesn't do it justice because I say it wasn't like a movie I was watching. It was like I was in the movie.
Yes.
I was in there. I was in another place. And it was beautiful. And I'm not sure if it was heaven or not, but it sure looked like it. It was beautiful. And she wasn't sick anymore. She was beautiful. She was younger, and she had a lot to say. And so that was a beautiful healing that I had. And I don't know, I mean, I guess it is unique to ayahuasca that is something that can happen. I also had something called psychic surgery with ayahuasca, if you've heard of that.
No, I haven't. Tell me more.
Yeah, well, I was learning about all this stuff after I did it. I'm going, what happened to me? And they're like, wow, you had that happen. That's so great. Only like 10% or 20% have that. Basically, I had asked for heart healing, about this relationship I was in. And Mother Aya said to me very clearly, no, sweetheart, we're going to start with your brain. You've got some depression and PTSD, and we're going to start there. And I literally felt it coming in, with the blue and green and yellow, like helix, winding up my body. And then I felt like a vice on my head, on my brain. And then I was just like frozen sitting there, and I felt like she was working. I said, what are you doing? She said, we're fixing you. We're fixing you all up. And after I got out of that journey and the days following, up to like 4 months, PTSD, depression, everything was lifted.
Nice.
It was like whatever she did in that surgery, I mean, it literally rewired my brain, and I felt better. So
it's amazing.
It is amazing. I know it sounds slightly crazy, but it happened.
I've heard with ayahuasca, it has a more connection with the mother, with the divine feminine. Not saying that psilocybin doesn't, but definitely from what I've studied and read in your stories here, it does seem like ayahuasca is definitely more connected to the divine feminine.
It's definitely more connected to the divine feminine. It is, Mother Aya, and that's no joke when we speak about Mother Aya. I mean, that is literally like a voice that you hear, and a lot of people hear it. If you read Listening to Ayahuasca by Dr. Rachel Harris, she's an ayahuasca researcher. And she's got a wonderful compilation of stories, anecdotal evidence, and almost every single person that has taken it speaks about that voice. And Mother Aya was speaking to me, and she's soft and she's gentle. And for me, she was funny. She had a sense of humor, and she wasn't fooling around. She was just like, I love you, but we need to do some work here. So it wasn't scary at all for me. Whereas psilocybin is just more of a gender neutral medicine. Actually, it's not masculine and it's not feminine. So kind of an interesting difference.
Now, peyote, is it gender neutral as well?
No, peyote is actually one of the masculine energy. Okay. Iboga and peyote, bufo, those are all like they call it, father masculine. If you want to heal some of those issues, that's a good medicine to take. And when I took it, that is actually what happened for me. But again, I set my intention for that to happen. So
what was your intention with peyote then?
To heal some things that had happened to me with males in my life, some traumas. And I wanted to look at that and heal that. And wow, that's exactly what peyote brought on. It took a while. Peyote was interesting. It was like this really long journey. But it was wonderful. It was wonderful. You feel quite queasy though. Have you taken peyote?
I haven't, no.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you feel queasy, but those are all just, like the shaman said, oh yeah, those are just energies and blockages that need to come out. It's like, oh, if you purge, that's great. They almost celebrate you when you purge. So when you vomit, it's like, oh, good, good, get it out, get it out. That's all the junk that needs to come out. It's
Mm.
all the stuff that's holding you back in life. So it's almost like you're celebrated when you vomit. So it really is a good thing.
Now, talking about the divine masculine and divine feminine, do you find the divine masculine is more of the safe and secure experience? Not saying the divine feminine isn't. I'm just curious, what was the difference in
Mm,
experience between divine masculine and divine feminine?
boy, it's a good question. I don't know. I describe Mother Aya and the Divine Feminine as just so motherly and nurturing, so sweet and nurturing. Like, I'm
Mm.
not going to hurt you. Whereas, like, peyote, I'm not saying it was going to hurt me, but it was like, we're going to show you things about that relationship with the masculine
Yeah.
that you might not want to see, but that you need to see. And I always say that it may not give you what you want, but it will give you what you need.
Yeah. So it's like more of the hard truth of the reality, more of like, I guess it's like, like a good father. Like I have a
Like a
daughter,
Yeah,
and it's
yep,
very much just like,
yes.
here's the mirror, whether you like it or not.
Yes, exactly, exactly. There's like no fluff with it. There's
Mhm.
no fluff. There's not a lot of nurturing. I mean, I didn't find that, but I was okay with that because I was going in. I'm just diving in saying, okay,
Mhm.
what do I need to heal here? Just show me what I need to heal. And so it did show me that, that's for sure.
It's interesting hearing like the divine feminine being soft and nurturing. I was told in my journal that there's a time when I'll be called to Aya. It's not yet. And I was
Mm-hmm.
given this kind of thing. So I teach this process called daily dialogue, which is just like conscious stream of conscious writing for at least 3 pages a day. And it just unlocks massive, amazing things for people. And so in that, it painted this journey of like the lion wrestling with the snake.
Mm.
And if I'm honest and real, which I will be, I'm terrified of doing ayahuasca
You?
because I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to like go to war with the snake.
What terrifies you about it?
Well, part of it is like probably the divine feminine. I don't think I trust. No, I don't trust the divine feminine. I've never experienced the divine feminine, and so my story around the divine feminine, it's chaos. Like
Ah,
with divine masculine, there's order and there's structure and there's these rules and agreements, and we know how to ebb and flow, and it's
right.
even in warrior culture, it's just like you can go to battle as not as equals, but there's a mutual trust and respect. There's an order, there's
Yeah.
codes, right? To
Yeah.
abide by. But then if
Mm-hmm.
I go into the chaos, I'm just like, it's unpredictable. I'm like, how are you going to show up? What are you going to do? You're going to change now? You're going to be this way? You're going to be that way? I don't know how you're going to show up. And so there's all of this unpredictability. And I think also in my own life, I haven't had I don't know what nurturing is.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth. I don't know what the nurturing is by a woman because most of the women in my life don't know how to nurture. They're not emotionally present. They're not emotionally present. So there's this dance I get to do whenever I'm called to it. But the truth is, like when I come home and I'm just like sitting with it, it's scary.
It's scary. No, I totally hear what you're saying, especially if your experience has been, chaos with that kind of mother female energy. And I'm
Yeah.
just going, whoa, I think, and I can't say what Mother Aya
Sure.
will do for you because
Sure, of
no one
course.
can. But wow, what an opportunity to enter into that because it seems like she may even come in and be like, this is what soft and sweet mother
Maybe.
energy is.
Maybe
Because
so.
you haven't had it. That's kind of like what she does. She's really good. She'll take you to the place that you need. She'll start with where you're at, is what I find. She's pretty gentle. So people that are really scared of like, I don't know, the ego, dying and all of that, she'll be so soft and sweet and gentle with you and how she even approaches you, if that makes sense. Because she will know that that has been your experience and she'll meet you where you're at. So it's not so scary. That's my feeling.
Yeah. Well, the good news is whatever the experience would be, I would surrender. So if it's intense, it's
Yeah.
intense, and it just
Yeah,
is. This
yeah,
is what it is.
yeah.
I've been on. So it was an MDMA experience. That was my very first journey experience. Was actually with MDMA.
Okay.
My second journey with MDMA, I was during the day. It was in the desert
Mhm.
behind the facilitator's home, and I was laying in this grass. And I think I've told this story. Yeah, in episode 5, I believe, of the podcast. And there was this blue streak on the wall, and the blue streak looked at me and it said, "I'll kill you." And I was
Oh,
like, okay. you can't kill me. I'm a soul. But if you want to try, we can go to war.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. And I'm like, hey, wait, do you trust and respect yourself? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, well, I trust and respect myself too. So what's our problem? He's like, there's no problem. And then it's like, went back to love.
You had a little interaction with, what do you think that was?
Maybe it was like the universal law of being, which is just neutral. There is no, this is neutral. It's just like a law of the universe. It's just like, I always say the law of being says that the world will give us exactly that which we are our core consisting of the thoughts and feelings that we hold on to predominantly. So if we think we're unworthy, then the world's going to give us more opportunities to express that unworthiness. If we feel like we're not enough, then the world's going to constantly give us more opportunities to experience the not enoughness.
Yeah.
And so it's very fair. Like it's a very fair universal principle. And so I think it was that maybe potentially. That's how I've categorized it and made sense of it.
So interesting. Yeah.
But just giving ourselves permission to be in the experience. Yeah, and to state our raw truth of whatever that is, I think is important.
Yeah, and it does take courage too. It takes some courage and bravery to be like, I'm willing to look at whatever comes up within myself. I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to look at it. I'm willing to unpack it. And, and that's the beauty of integration after you do this journey. Because it's like, wow, I've got so much more material now that came up from my subconscious. Now what do I want to do with this? So I guess I can't emphasize enough the importance of doing the integration after these journeys,
What does that look like? You talk about the integration. What does that look like, the integration after a journey? Because I think there's really something important.
Yeah, I mean, integration is not just thinking and reflecting by yourself. We can do that all day long. It's actually talking to someone else and unpacking what you've learned about yourself and how pieces of your journey may have come up for that week. Like, oh wow, now I'm seeing that, I feel worthy when I talk to people, when I have social interactions, whereas before I didn't, and I had social anxiety. So it's just like somebody to talk to that will validate your experience, that's trained, in psychedelic medicine, that knows how to do this. Maybe doing some art to represent how are my intentions manifesting. I'm actually pretty big into manifesting, and boy, do these medicines change your neural pathways, right? Changes your signals so that now,
Totally.
just like what you were saying before, now you can really start manifesting what it is you want and those desires, because you've cleaned away. It's like this wiping away of all that junk and all that scar tissue, so that you're cleaner, if that makes sense, in order to manifest what it is you want. It's like a clean signal. And also your vibration is totally lifted. It like just goes up like 10 notches. Because if you're in depression and anxiety, you're vibrating at a very low level.
Totally.
And to manifest from that place is really difficult. You're going to notice a lot of resistance and, people coming in that are not quite what you're wanting and opportunities. So I find that when you do these medicines, it just totally raises your vibration, and then you can just start manifesting.
Well, it comes back to that law of being, right? Like we can tell ourselves from a mental construct, but if at the feeling level it's completely counter, then it's just bullshit, right?
Right. You cannot lie. Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
Right. The body cannot lie. It's at a cellular level, right? It's like if you change that and you start rewiring that, even Joe Dispenza talks about that, right? When you change your signal, you're going to change what you attract and what you bring in. And I have seen that happen. And I've done those experiments with myself, where I'm a lot lower, not much happening. I get higher, lots happening. So it's so cool. And it's so fun to, I don't know, I teach and guide and help other people and clients so that they can do that too. And one of the medicines I talked about earlier, combo, they say that is one that's really powerful for manifesting, because it cleans you out so much, cleans out a lot of those darker energies, that it's like, they call it like the manifesting medicine, or it's known to help with that, I guess.
Now, do you think before people go down this road of experimenting and using plant medicine for their evolution, is it better for them to learn how to like deal with their traumas, face their traumas without plant medicine before they go into plant medicine, so they have a stronger mental foundation that they can use coming into plant medicine. Does that make sense?
Yeah, meaning like, should there be some attempts at looking at it before you just dive right in to plant
Yeah, so for
medicine?
instance, before I ever did plant medicine, I had done 10-day meditation retreats that were super intense. I had
Yeah.
meditated for a long time. I had worked with coaches for a long time. So I looked at a lot of my inadequacies and stuff. And so it wasn't just like thrown into the chaos. Like I knew how to sort through the chaos. So anything that was thrown at me,
Hmm.
I was very much still in control and could navigate it
Yeah.
very well, still being surrendered. But there was just this knowing that whatever happened, I can handle. There's nothing that I'm going to face that I can't handle. Now, maybe that's just part of my past conditioning and my soul's evolution, maybe, or maybe potentially it's because I had put in all of the mental and heart reps leading up to that that gave me the strength to be able to navigate it. And sometimes I'm just curious and wonder if some people dive into plant medicine too soon, too fast, without building up to it, because they're like, oh, this is going to save me. And they're already coming in from victim energy rather than learning how to tap in and use some of their own skill sets to navigate life, and then using plant medicine just to like open up the pathways. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I've seen people do it both ways. Some people think, plant medicine will be my savior. I'm going to go in, I'm going to place too much emphasis on that.
Right.
It's like, well, it's not the plant medicine that's saving you, it's the teachings around it that, depending on what you want to do after. But I do think, getting a nice psychological, just like a foundation before you go in is healthier,
Yeah.
so that you feel better equipped to deal with some of the raw material that could be brought up for you. Because it can be, you can have your traumas shown to you. You can go back to childhood memories. And if you're not prepared for that, that can be pretty scary. Because when you do ayahuasca, remember, you're not being guided. They give you the medicine and you sit in that journey alone. And no one is like helping you or holding your hand or even holding your bucket. You're in that process alone. It can be pretty, I don't know, not scary, but alone feeling, right? And so then you come out and, oh my gosh, what do I do with all this? So I think that some preparation is good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for anybody who's just thinking about plant medicine?
Just to ask themselves, what is my intention going in? What is my motivation? What would I like to receive from medicine? Am I prepared to do this? Am I prepared to see possibly some traumas and things, that I don't want to see about myself and about my life? But really getting clear with the intentions. That's my advice, is to get clear and to make sure it's the right time in their life. And like I said before, allowing the time and the space to enter into this plant medicine. Because I don't know, I kind of look at it as like, once you do it, it almost becomes a way of life or a way of thinking, rather than I'm going to do it that one time.
Right.
That's how life changing it is, or it has been for me rather.
Hmm. Now, is it something you do on a monthly basis, once a year, bi-yearly? What's your rhythm?
I'd prefer to do it, at least 3 times a year.
Okay.
But with psilocybin, I'm doing that more often because now I'm more of like a practitioner,
Sure.
offering that to people. So I do that more on a regular basis because I love it and it helps me. It's my medicine. I
Awesome.
don't want antidepressants.
Sure.
These medicines are helping me to rewire, and they're beautiful. So I don't know. That's a tough question. All the time, once a month, every other week.
So for some people, just want to paint a picture, because I would say if they're doing it too often, they don't have time to integrate, and they're
Right.
just like spiritual, 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 spiritual. And then there's the other side of the paradox is like we live on a physical plane. And so there's this thing that just gets to take place of integration. And I think sometimes if we're just taking big journey after big journey after big journey after big journey, like our body doesn't have a chance to catch up and integrate some of those lessons.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would recommend, yeah, I don't do any kind of macro journeys. I probably would do that more like 3 times a year.
Awesome.
So there's plenty of time to integrate. I am going to be doing one at the end of the month. But I think that for the average person, it's like maybe 2 times, or maybe 3 times a year, depending on, you know, for mental illness, for depression or PTSD, it can really be used, those macro journeys can be used as medicine to help rewire.
Sure.
So like about 3 times a year is what we have found to be helpful and
Awesome.
really changing that brain chemistry.
Awesome. Yeah, I've done when I was struggling with depression, one journey, and I'm like, I was good.
Yeah.
And I haven't had depression ever since.
Wow, isn't that incredible?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Incredible.
So just kind of
Yeah.
wrapping up here, if you could
Yeah.
go back in time and give yourself some wisdom to help you get results faster, what would you tell yourself?
With regard to plant medicine or anything?
Just anything.
Ooh, gosh, don't sweat the small stuff. Remember your light. Remember that you matter and that you're here to have a spiritual full circle and to offer to people learning and teaching like with what you've been through, if that
Awesome.
makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Makes
Like
sense.
this will
Absolutely.
matter, like all of this will matter, everything that I went through, all those traumas and everything, this will matter because it will help other people. And
Awesome.
so just knowing that makes me feel good.
Awesome. Now, if people want to learn more about you, they want to connect with you, maybe they're interested in having you facilitate their journey, how can they connect with you?
They can email me. Yeah.
Awesome. And what's the email address?
It's Amy Grace lcsw@gmail.com. Amy with an I.
Brilliant. Awesome. Well, Amy, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for sharing some of your wisdom and your experiences and your stories.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Yes. Thank you for having me. My
You're
pleasure.
welcome. Well, there you have it, my friend, Amy Grace, and all of her wisdom. I personally haven't been called ayahuasca yet. I don't know if I ever will be, but I hope this episode gave you a lot to think about. So that's all I have for this episode of the Anthony John Weeks podcast. I hope it served you. I hope it's inspired you as much as it has me. If you know someone who needs to hear this episode, send it over to them in their DM, screenshot it, share it on social media, send them an email, a text message, whatever you have to do to get this episode into their ear holes. And also, please keep those 5-star reviews coming over on iTunes because it's what helped get the show found by more people. What's helped really serve more people. So thank you so much for being here. Until next time, my friend, I'm out. Peace.
Well, that's all I've got for this episode of the Anthony John Amix podcast, but we have plenty more to help you become unstoppable in life and business. So head on over to ajamix.com for exclusive resources, information, and tools to help you break through to a new level of freedom, purpose, and success. I look forward to having you back for the next episode. Bye for now.